All right, you guys. So I want to incorporate sports a little more into my channel. I talk a lot about wrestling and I love wrestling and I follow wrestling, but I also love and follow a lot of other sports like MLB, NBA, NFL, college football, you name it, I probably follow it. So I want to incorporate that. And what better way to do that than to start by talking about the NBA Conference Finals because they begin tonight with the Western Conference and then the Eastern Conference kicks off tomorrow. So let's get into my picks for these two final games. So the Western Conference Finals kicks off tonight. Like I said, we have Minnesota Timberwolves and Ant Edwards versus Oklahoma City and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Now, both of these guys have been bright stars for their team. Honestly, the Oklahoma City Thunder may not have beat the Nuggets if it wasn't for Shai because he dominated in game 7 and really pushed them over the top. And so I feel like that both of these stars are going to have a great series, but there's a few things that I want to point out as to who I think is going to win. So, number 1, these teams are 2-2 this season, so they have 2 wins against each other. Those wins have come on their home court. With that being said, Oklahoma City Thunder have the advantage here because they have more home games than Minnesota being the higher seed. Now, does that mean anything? Who's to know? Because the playoffs are always different. Another thing, though, that I want to point out is Minnesota has had a little bit of a break. The Thunder went to game 7 while Minnesota had a break. And honestly, I know a lot of people say that the Thunder are going to be tired because they had to play more games, but I think the opposite. I think a break can sometimes hurt you more than it can help you because all of that, like fire and that motivation and just the fuel that you have, you take a step back because you're on a break. You don't have to do that. So, all of that, like motivation, while it'll follow you into the next series, you have to kind of start over. Whereas the Oklahoma City Thunder, coming out of a game 7, still has that fire, that fuel. They haven't had to rest, they haven't had to break like Minnesota. So, will that be a factor in this game? It definitely could. But with that being said, both of these teams are young. They are very young. They're high scoring teams. So I honestly think that those two factors, the home court and the break, isn't going to be too much of a series killer. I honestly think that this series is going to go 7 games, and I think it's a little more unpredictable than the Pacers and the Knicks because I think that this series relies on whichever star gets hotter. Is it going to be Ant Edwards or is it going to be Shai? And honestly, it could be either one, and whoever hits the mark at the right time is going to propel their team to the finals. And as we've seen in the NBA playoffs so far, injuries have been a huge kicker as well. So, is the team's going to stay healthy? We don't know. But ultimately, going on paper with what they have, the Minnesota Timberwolves here have experience. They were in the conference finals last year. They lost to Dallas, and you better believe that they're going to take that loss as motivation to get into the finals this year. Oklahoma City Thunder have not been to a conference finals since 2016. That's almost 10 years, you guys. So that's a quite some time. They don't have the experience. Their roster is young. But with that being said, I'm picking Oklahoma City here. I think that they can outlast in a 7 game series, and I think that they can outscore in a 7 game series, and I think that's going to be the key factor to this series is who can score the most points. And when you have a guy like Shai that can go off for 35 points in one game when you need it, when it's crunch time, that kind of makes you a little high on my ranking. So I definitely think that these both of these teams will battle it out, but I'm going to pick the Oklahoma City Thunder to move on to the finals. Now let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. And this one, you guys, is going to be another doozy because we have the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks, and we know their history and we know their rivalry. And we also know that they have 2 young stars as well in Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton. And those two guys have been key components for these teams. When they shine, the whole team shines. So, with that being said, who do we think is going to win this series? New York went 2-1 against Indiana in the regular series, and overall, they have been on a hot streak this entire playoffs. Now, with that being said, their last game, unfortunately, Jason Tatum got hurt, but Boston still competed, and the Knicks still crushed them. So if you bet against the Knicks, you might be taking a risk here. But is that what we want to do? Do we want to take a risk because we believe in the heart of Indiana? Let's talk about it. I personally, again, think that this series is going to come down to which star shines brighter, just like the Western Conference. You have these two key guys who, when they perform well, make their team better, and that's what you need in the playoffs. With that being said, the first game is at New York. So I definitely think that the Knicks will strike first. I think that they're going to come into their stadium. Madison Square Garden is electric, especially during the Knicks playoff time. So they're going to come in and they're going to get the win during the first game. But just because they strike first, does that mean that they will also strike last and win the war? I don't think so. I'm going to bet on the Indiana Pacers here because I love the physicality of their team. I love that the heart that they show and the passion that they show on the court. Now, with that being said, I do think they can get in their heads a little bit. We saw that in the Boston series where they were drawing, getting texts, whatever. So if they don't keep their head on straight, New York can take advantage of them for sure. But if they keep their head on straight, they keep that motivation and that strength and that power, and Tyrese Halliburton has a great series, I think they move on to the finals, and I think the Knicks go home packing. I want to know, what do you guys think will be the final matchup? Do you agree with me and think that it will be Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers? Or do you disagree with me? Let me know in the comments.